So I managed to get pretty lucky and I was able to snag the refreshing Nimble Coat artifact relatively early. And I went over the implications of this artifact for my build in the PTR video that I did, but it's even better than I thought it would be. As I mentioned, I had to invest pretty much every one of my gear slots in order to hit that 2-hit evade. And with resilience being in the game, previously it meant that we had no room for any damage perks. But with resilience being removed and the artifact chest piece now giving us way more refreshing, it allowed us to get way more damage on the build, and it is feeling insane. We have a couple of PvP clips here, and we end up jumping into a little bit of a 1v1 here with a green and a yellow. And I kind of just let them finish off their ones. But yeah, we're going to jump into a little of a 1v1 here with the Bow Greatsword player. The idea with this setup is you really want to try to bait out your opponent's cooldowns, which will then subsequently make them use up all their roll dodges, which will then put you in a favorable position to take them out. You can see I already spaced out that first dagger. We do get hit by the second one, but you can see he's already out of stamina there. And as soon as I see the opportunity, you see we just feed him the evades, and it's lights out. It's literally, we can literally finish people off before their stamina comes back. Like, the build is just feeling so good, and it's not even close to being finished. But we have another clip here again in the open world against a Stone and Shield Spirit player. Same idea is going to apply. We bait out the Shield Rush there, bait him into a nasty Incinerate into the vines, and also bait out the Shield Bash as well. Knowing that all those cooldowns are off, that is my opportunity. And you can see again just how much damage we're able to pump into people now. I It's crazy for me to think that we had to like stab people like 50 times last patch to finish them off with this setup. So I'm really happy with where it's sitting at currently. But jumping into some outpost rush, I had to come in here and test out the artifact as soon as I got it, and we went on an absolute tear. This first clip though, I really want you to pay attention to how much damage we do with the Incinerate, because it's kind of ridiculous now. Do a really good job of landing the heavy attack and buy myself a little bit of space, but we get a really nice roll dodge into the vines off of the Incinerate, and not only do we hit him with a beautiful combo there, but go back and look how much damage we did, because that was a non-crit Incinerate. So yeah, the damage on the build is just absolutely insane now. But jumping into the next clip here, we are on the backside of Sun to see what kind of trouble we can cause. I see if I can try to bait out the hatchet throw there, but he goes for a berserk instead, and then does land the root, but with no defensive options really left there. You can see how much damage we already put into him without really needing to do too much evade work there. If you were not running 150 con at bare minimum and some dust protection, you are going to get blown up by this build. But we jump onto Sun, find an AFK player here, see if I can take him out really quickly. He does manage to come back before I do finish him off though, and he does get some assistance from his teammates. But we're just going to go ahead and follow up and finish off this kill on him. We land the kill with the damage over time. Land a nasty Incinerate into the vines, into the Flourish and finish. And again, because we have those infinite evades, we can stay aggressive while trying to mitigate as much damage as we can. As long as you can time it properly, you can stay aggressive and also almost not take any damage. And you can see we almost 3-shots this bow up on the bridge there. We get 2 nasty heavies into the back of that bow player and just absolutely tear them apart. I'm gonna have my attention focused on the remaining bow player here. I'm in a really bad position, but the damage is just ridiculous now on the build, and I just really couldn't be happier. And then last but not least, here we are at Sun again, pushing out over to the enemy side, and we're gonna see if we can cause a little bit more havoc over there. But I end up seeing an enemy player get just absolutely bursted there from a blunderbuss, it looks like. And I see if we can go ahead and pick up the kill on him. We do manage to land the stagger, and we almost take him out, but he does land a really good parry. And instead of running away, he does end up attacking us, but we do manage to pick up the kill. And then I turn my attention over to the players over in mid. Almost killed the mage there with the heavy and the fireball, but we do pick up the kill there with the burnout. And then I go ahead and turn my attention over to the Great Axe User, who is also low from our pressure as well. I do a lot of damage with that heavy, and I try to trade him, but we do end up taking a lot of damage from that Maelstrom right there. And just barely make it out. Fake the dodge roll into the burnout. We were able to make it out of the gravel, and just like that, we catch him with the heavy and just barely make it away from the players chasing us as well. We managed to land the stagger and get away to buy myself a little bit of time. And we were able to get that potion off there, but a really nice kill on that Great Axe User and escape as well to make it out. land a juicy fireball on this great sword user. And I honestly just egoed that heavy attack. I should have just dodged and I would have been able to get the kill and survive, but I just had to go for it and then we end up killing each other. But yeah, let's take a look at what the build is saying. So taking a look at the build, first off, just to take a look at the weapon trees really quickly. We are still running the exact same thing that I was running previously on my Incinerate setup. Nothing has really changed there. So same skill trees as far as that is concerned. But where the build gets really spicy is the attributes. Now, if you haven't seen my PTR video that I did a little bit ago, I kind of talked about where I wanted to head for this build in terms of the stat allocation. And we're still pretty much doing the same thing, but there have been a couple of changes from the PTR. They have nerfed a couple of things, and a couple of things were not in the patch notes. So we are kind of finding out live now what we're actually able to do, which is pretty unfortunate. This is honestly probably one of the worst iterations of a PTR that I think we've had in a while or ever. For the biggest expansion coming to the game, we literally got 2 weeks to test it out, and then they also gave themselves 2 weeks to try to remedy and fix all the issues. And on top of that, the 2 weeks that we got to actually test the PTR was full of bugs. So definitely a little bit unfortunate there, but the build is still looking very, very strong. So as you can see, we are running an Rapier. In my previous video, I was not running focus, but we'll talk about why I have 25 points into focus now. But 150 con, 350 intelligence, and honestly, this is the biggest part of the build. As you saw by those numbers on our fire staff, we are just absolutely chunking now. And I just still am not used to the damage, being that we used to run, not used to, we ran a 200 into fire staff for the entirety of the game. And we are now able to not only get our fire staff damage up to par, but we are able to retain our rapier damage while doing so. Now, if you haven't checked them out, there have been quite a few changes to the breakpoints, but the really, really big one here is going to be the 350 int passive that gives us 10% extra ability damage, which is just insane. And then as far as dex is concerned, we aren't really worried about too much. On the PTR, I had 150 dex and 350 int, but I don't think that's going to be possible now. But regardless, the build is still feeling very, very strong. Now, the reason why I am running 25 focus now instead of on the PTR is because, as I mentioned, there have been a couple of nerfs. And the main one was to the nimble coat. On the PTR, the highly refreshing perk had 15% cooldown, and then the just refreshing perk itself was a 5% cooldown, not a 4%. So those two changes have kind of put a little bit of a dent into our plans for the build, but it is still possible to kind of go through with what we were trying to go through. So taking a look at the setup now, we are not fully maxed out by any means. I do feel like my gear is in a pretty good spot, but there is definitely a lot more power that we can kind of pull out of the build. And one of the really, really good things about this patch that I'm really happy about is the amount of build craft that we got. The build craft, on top of the fact that they removed resilience and just made it inherent, built into the armor weights, allowed us to throw on a whole slew of perk combinations that we weren't really able to do before. And on top of that, we have some new perks. And then on top of that, because of the artifact chest piece, we no longer have to run 9 pieces of refreshing in order to hit that 2-hit evade. So taking a look at our helmet here, or our headwear, we are running Enchanted Ward and Thrust Conditioning. Thrust Conditioning is actually massive. You can get them through Tangle Vine pieces, but you can also, as you see, you can just get them on a regular piece if it drops or if it rolls on it. And then we also actually managed to get Enchanted Ward. This helmet is actually insane. We got Freedom, Enchanted Ward, and Thrust Conditioning. So this is a very, very good helmet for us. Already running Nimble Coat, as you saw. I'm waiting to upgrade the last perk on this because I'm not 100% sure on the direction that I want to go with the build yet in terms of my armor perks. You can go for a little bit more of a defensive setup, which I'm kind of doing right now, or you can go for a fire harnessing and rune glass setup to really buff your fire damage. Now, where I kind of want to go with this is to kind of mix the two. Because we don't have to run resilient anymore, I really want to see if I can fit maybe not 5 fire harnessing, but as many fire harnessing pieces as I can, in addition to getting things like enchanted ward and thrust conditioning. But we have nimble coat. For our gloves, we're running spore light gloves right now. Physical aversion, thrust conditioning again, and then max health. On our legs, we are running freedom, omnidirectional evade, and shirking. Just some insane legs here that I managed to pick up. And then on our boots, we have aversion, refreshing, and fireball. Taking a look at our jewelry here, we are running stamina recovery and refreshing. For pretty much every clip, I was not running this amulet because I just got this today. But a really nice amulet to have, at least for now, while we're trying to get our gear up. I did manage to get a upgraded version of the Champion's Ring, and that invigorated punishment on top of the amount of damage that Fire Staff is doing now is just absolutely insane. So I really like this ring for the build. And then taking a look at our earring here, we are running the Tangle Vine, which is giving us Fortifying Toast, Refreshing, and Nimble. Now, like I said, this is not, set in stone what I'm going to be running for the build. I'm still constantly trying to find pieces and see where I want to take the build, but this is definitely a really good base for it right now. And then taking a look at our weapons, we are running Shirking, Abyss, Vicious, and Empowering Incinerate, a really nice fire staff here that I also managed to find. And then for our Rapier, now, as I mentioned, because of that nerf to the artifact chest piece and the refreshing perk, previously, as I mentioned in the PTR video, that you would now be able to get 2-hit evade with any rapier that you wanted to use. You didn't have to use refreshing move and refreshing on your rapier, but now that they've nerfed it, you do have to run refreshing move and that 25 focus. That is why I'm running 25 focus on the build, because without refreshing move and 25 focus and the max refreshing pieces with the artifact chest piece, you can't hit 2-hit evade. So that is a little bit annoying, but it isn't the end of the world, because the rapier that I plan on using for this build, which I believe I can do in, I think, 8 to 10 hours once I can get my next chromatic seal. Yeah, I think it's about 8 to 10 hours until I can get it and then upgrade the weapon. But the rapier that I'm going to be using is the Tai rapier. Now, you might be thinking, what is this thing here? 583 get your score. If you haven't gone to test it out yet, you can upgrade almost any named item. I haven't gone through and tested every single one because it's going to be impossible, but for the most part, almost every named item in the game you can bring to a gypsum kiln and upgrade that to 700. And the crazy thing about this rapier here is not only does it have refreshing move to allow us to retain that 2-hit evade, but it has rogue. And then on top of that, we can put penetrating backstabs, dude. Just an absolutely disgusting rapier. And as you saw by the clips, the reason why I wanted to go for a rapier like this, especially for this build, or even really any rapier build, the reason why I really like backstab rapiers is because that is really the strength of the rapier. Whether you're using riposte or not, the fact that the rapier has a built-in iframe pretty much allows you to out-sustain people for the most part. A lot of the time, as long as you're playing patient and using your abilities at the correct times, you can, generally speaking, exhaust your opponent much faster and almost 100% of the time before you get exhausted. And at which case they will usually try to run away, in which case their back would be exposed. So yeah, I'm actually very excited to be able to upgrade this and test it out and see how much damage I can do with it. But currently, we're still not running a bad one. King Vicious is not too bad. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about running this bad boy here. But yeah, that is the setup. Like I said, we're still on the hunt for gear. I'm not going to try to fully max this build out. I'm probably going to work on my Ice Gauntlet Rapier build as well. and then try to work on both of those at the same time. But yeah, the plan or the goal with this is to try and mix as many defensive perks as I can. So, for example, if I can maybe get Enchanted Ward here instead of Aversion, Fire Harnessing here instead of Freedom, stuff like that. I really think I can mix and match some defensive perks and still get the boost to our fire damage. But we'll have to see, how things turn out and what kind of gear we get. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments. And as always, have an amazing day.